Okay, today I'm going to give you a brief update on where we are with our projects, talk about our efforts with hiring in the community, and a little bit about our community development work that is related to that same hiring need, the regional impact study. So where we are on our permits, we have a few tidbits up here. I mean, where we are on our projects, have a few tidbits up here. If you're not familiar with our projects, if you haven't heard about them, but where we are is we're in design and we're waiting on permits to be issued. We hope that we are near the end of the air permitting and the Corps of Engineers permitting process, and that we'll be able to start work later this year. The Corps of Engineers permit is probably the most challenging one that we face. The air permits, the DEQ did an exceptional job processing those. Part of what we did as a part of the process was to process all of our permit applications. I think it was something on the order of 15 air permit applications at the same time. But in trying to be as transparent as possible with the community, we wanted all of the impacts to be out and available for everyone to see. So we've gotten tremendous support from our local community, from our business and economic development leaders and public officials at all levels of government, both federal and state. So in preparing the community for growth, we started a number of community meetings, and some of those meetings were in the Mossville area, which is a African-American community, low economic level, and it was basically outreach in advance of a property purchase program. And we were speaking to a group of ministers, and the minister said to me at the end of our portion of the meeting, "Thanks for coming and meeting with us. Thanks for all of this information. But what can we tell the people in our community, our parishioners, the members of our church, what can we tell them in terms of what they need to do to get a job?" Okay, and not being a human resources professional, I said, well, I'm sure there's something that's written. I'm sure that there's some materials. Went back and looked, and we had no materials on what someone should be doing. So with Sasol, what Sasol did is decided to sponsor a guide on how to get a job, and I asked Harris DeVille and Associates, Kim Kuzmano, to basically put me together something that would give these ministers guidance on how to get a job. You know, fairly simple. Put it in a trifold, maybe a quadfold form, so that you know it contains all the information and we can publish it and hand it out. And Kim and the guys from HDA started working, and 81 pages later, we end up with a guide, and much of the information in here captures a lot of the information that George and Dr. Sullivan talked about in terms of what are the degree programs and so forth. But even before you get to that, there are some very fundamental steps, you know, and Dr. White talked about a 5-step process. Our 5-step process is get your high school diploma. Make sure you have basic life skills, such as why it's important to get to work on time. You know, that's something that some of the people in the market really don't understand. You know, select a craft, skill, or profession, get certification, associate degree, build a resume, and apply for a job. So, you know, the information is all there, but as we move forward, you know, we started this process in August of last year, completed the guide in December, and started working through how are we going to implement this process. And what we decided is the resource guide, what we found in talking to experts in the area, people with the Workforce Resource Center, some of the committees that you saw on George's list, members of those committees, was the Workforce Resource Guide is basically still not available, you know, even though all the words are there. The audience that needs it, that 20% of the population that will be left behind by the economic expansion and growth, It's not available to them. They still don't, it still doesn't click. And what we realized is going back to idea generation, the ministers, what we realized is we needed mentors. We needed people that could take this forward. We needed people that could identify the prospective job seeker and be a mentor to them. So you see that we've trained over 150 mentors, and the document has been downloaded quite a number of times. Training the mentors gave us a lot of insight into what needed to happen. And two things we discovered that needed to happen, one being very obvious and one being considerably less obvious. The thing that was obvious was we needed to identify a way to generate scholarships. We needed a way for that 20% that's unemployable today, to find a way back into the training. And so we're working with the Southwest Louisiana Community Foundation as a potential source of funding and as a potential basically umbrella organization to decide who gets the funding, who gets the scholarships. Sasol does not want to be in the position of picking winners and losers, but we need somebody that can review applications, can talk to the mentors, can talk to those individuals and decide that yes, they do need to be provided with some assistance. The thing that was less obvious is as we train these mentors, we realized that these mentors would never be HR professionals. They would never be someone who could say that you should become a plumber or you should get your P-Tech degree, or, in guiding that potential job seeker. And so we've realized that there's a third step of the stool that needs to be built, and that is to build a counseling step in there with someone who is a trained HR professional that can sit down with these individuals and the mentors and help them decide which direction they should go. If I'm a 30-year-old with a felony and served time and had to work in the cash economy and I have no job history, there's no point in me going to get a P-Tech degree. I'll never get a job in industry. But you look at where we are in Calcasieu Power in Southwest Louisiana, we're 15,000 to 20,000 houses short. So we're going to need a lot of help in building those houses. So that individual has the potential to become a carpenter or a plumber or a pipe fitter or a concrete polisher, something that he could get into in a trade situation in the open market, get a good, decent job, maybe become a small business owner, and not be saddled with living his life, as a convicted felon who can't get a job in industry. So we're working through the process now of, can we pilot something to demonstrate some success? We need to work with employers like the construction industry, the casino industry, and that other industry that's in Southwest Louisiana that is about to boom and about to need people. Let's put that 20% to work, and that's the direction that we're going with the Workforce Resource Guide. The other thing that we are working on is a regional impact study. The regional impact study is, when our project was announced in December 2012, the leadership of Southwest Louisiana got together and said, we need a plan. And they formed the GO Group. The GO Group basically was supposed to come up with a plan for how are we going to respond to this challenge of having $60 billion in capital spent in Southwest Louisiana. They were unable to get focused. They were unable to bring it to fruition. So Sasol has sponsored, in cooperation with the GO Group, a regional impact study using the Louisiana-based firm CSRS. CSRS has put together a team of 12 other consulting firms, many of whom are in the room, to do the studies, to identify what are the impacts going to be in these areas. Not only short term, but also long term. We have to prepare for what is immediate, and I can tell you we're behind. We're behind on roadways, we're behind on a number of items. But not only in these areas in the short term, but also what are we going to do long term? In order to deal with the short-term impacts, we will have to work diligently with our delegation and with our local leadership. But longer term, the long-term plan is going to require leadership at all levels. It's going to require our governmental entities to pull together and to do the things necessary to bring the Southwest Louisiana region into basically what we want the community to be when we're through. The problem that we face is a simple one. We're going to either get better, we're going to have a better quality of life, or we're not. And our concern at Sasol is quality of life. If it's not managed through our governmental entities and not managed in accordance with a long-term plan, that we will end up with a lesser quality of life. And that is an employment issue. That is the central employment issue. We want to end up with these projects. We want Southwest Louisiana to be a place people want to move to first, and then, hey, they've got jobs. So we have a lot of work to do to make that happen. There are a number of things that the guys on this front row will affect, such as one of the problems we've identified in housing is driven by the quality of the schools. Everybody that comes to Lake Charles says to their realtor, I want to live in that Barbie school district, which they actually mean Barb. But you know what it does is it drives where people live. Mayor Roach has told me several times, Lake Charles has capacity in its schools. Lake Charles has capacity in its ability to build housing, but we can't get people to move there because they all want to go to Barb. They all want to be in this one school district. And so when we reach the point to where schools are no longer a determining factor in where the community growth occurs, then we'll be able to have a healthy, more balanced community in terms of a number of these things: housing, traffic, quality of life can actually occur in more than one region of the city. So industry is going to have to take an unconventional role in Southwest Louisiana. Business is going to have to take an unconventional role, because we're going to have to tell our community leaders, some of these ideas need to be implemented. Some of these things that need to change, you need to change. And so for us to be able to succeed long term, for our facility to be able to succeed, and the business and industry to succeed long term, we need to address that 20% of the population that's going to be left behind, and we need to address where everyone else is going to move. You know, we're bringing 1,200 jobs, so the peak that you see of construction workers and then the construction workers go off when that dozen jobs, that's not going to happen. It's going to be more of a flat curve because of the number of permanent jobs we bring. So in order for us to have the community that we want, the long-term impact study is going to have to come up with ideas that will actually be implemented, and the leadership will have to actually implement them, because my fear and what I'm excited about is this natural gas boom is not a bubble. What if this $60 billion in capital investment we see over the next 5 years is just that next 5 years, and then the next 60 billion over the next 5 years, and the next 60 billion over the next 5 years? How are we going to be able to build sustainable communities to continue to grow and survive and succeed? And to do that, we're going to need to take care of a lot of issues, a big one being managing our workforce. So, thank you.